Indian Aviation Ministry has decided to ground the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft with immediate effect. The decision comes days after an Ethiopian airline crash killed 157 people, including 4 Indians. The planes will remain grounded till appropriate modifications and safety measures are undertaken to ensure their safe operations. This is the same airline whose flight crashed into the Java Sea minutes after takeoff in October last year, killing all 189 people on board. More than 18 countries have now grounded their Boeing 737 MAX aircraft following 2 deadly crashes. In 5 months, the European Union has suspended the Boeing MAX flights in Europe, joining Iceland, Germany, UK, France, Turkey and several other countries grounding the aircraft. UK, Oman, Singapore, Australia, Ireland and France and Norwegian airlines have suspended the whole Boeing 737 MAX range, while others have grounded the MAX 8 model. American civil aviation and Boeing investigators have arrived to search through debris at the scene of the Ethiopian airline crash. A team from the Israeli volunteer rescue service Zaka has reached the crash site to help identify bodies. The 737 MAX jet incidents have caused alarm in the international aviation industry, but according to the experts, it is too early to link both the crashes. Given problems of identification at the charred disaster site, Ethiopia Airline has said that it would take at least 5 days to start handing remains to families. The British lawmakers have crushed Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit deal, again pushing UK into deeper crisis. The MPs voted against May's amended Brexit deal by 149 votes. The lawmakers will now vote on whether Britain should quit the European Union without a deal or not. The European Union has warned about the risk of a damaging no-deal Brexit and has made it clear that there would be no more negotiations with London on the divorce terms. The vote has now put UK in an uncharted territory with no obvious way forward. India has slammed Pakistan at the 40th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council for supporting terrorism and raking up Kashmir. Responding to Pakistan's allegations of human rights violations in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, Indian diplomat Mini Devi Kumam lashed out at Pakistan for supporting cross-border terrorism. The Indian diplomat reminded Pakistan of holding the infamous distinction for hosting UN-designated terrorists and raised the issue of Pulwama attack at the council. After 2 weeks of talks in Doha, the United States and the Taliban now have a draft agreement on 2 issues that signal concrete progress towards a peace deal. Both the sides have hammered out a draft agreement on the eventual withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan and a commitment from the insurgents to cut all ties with Al-Qaeda or other terrorist groups. But it's unclear if the Afghan government and other Afghan political leaders will be ready to embrace the tentative deal worked out by US's Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad. Former US Vice President Joe Biden has dropped teasing hints of a possible White House campaign for 2020 at the firefighters' campaign in Washington. The Democratic elder statesman has been mulling a challenge against President Donald Trump for months. Biden's speech comes as the former vice president is in the final stages of deciding whether to run for president in 2020. His future remains one of the biggest unknown questions of the 2020 race. The US federal prosecutors have charged Hollywood actors Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, along with almost 50 other people, over education fraud. The $25 million scam helped the wealthy Americans buy their children's way into elite universities, including Yale, Georgetown, Stanford, and the University of Southern California. 200 FBI agents were involved in the investigation, which exposed how parents bribed college coaches and insiders at testing centers. A 23-year-old Palestinian has been shot dead by the Israeli army in the West Bank city of Salfit. According to the Israeli army spokesperson, the clashes broke out after Israeli troops entered Salfit. The Israeli army used riot dispersal means, mainly tear gas, against a dozen of Palestinians who threw stones at them. Earlier, another Palestinian armed with a knife had confronted troops in the city of Hebron and was shot dead. Thousands protested across Algeria demanding immediate political changes a day after ailing President Abdelaziz Bouteflika abandoned his bid for a fifth term. Huge crowds gathered in several cities as workers began a strike that paralyzed operations at the Mediterranean port at Bajia. Bouteflika vowed to weeks of mass demonstrations against his 20-year rule on Monday and promised a transition to a new leadership, but he has postponed elections scheduled for April, meaning he will likely remain in power for some time. French President Emmanuel Macron has welcomed Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's decision and has called for a reasonable duration to the transition period. President Bouteflika has abandoned his quest for a fifth term in power and has opened a new chapter in the country's history. Speaking during an official visit in Djibouti, Macron has said that Bouteflika's announcement reflected a sign of maturity for the country. A French citizen has sentenced to life imprisonment for killing 4 people in a Jewish museum in 2014. In his last words to the jury, the convict Nemamouche said life goes on. Another French citizen being tried as Nemamouche's accomplice has been convicted to 15 years in prison for acting as an accomplice, and he was suspected of providing the weapon used in the shooting. Police in southern India's Tamil Nadu state have arrested 4 men based on a complaint by an alleged assault victim. The victim filed a complaint with the police against 4 men for sexual assault and videotaping. She alleged the men then threatened to upload the video online if she did not meet them whenever summoned. Reportedly, over 50 women were lured on social media and harassed by the 4-member gang over the last few months. Police have appealed the victims to come forward. Relatives of people detained or killed in Venezuela appeared before the opposition to denounce the rampant violations of human rights by the government of Nicolas Maduro. Opponents of Maduro have been arrested during the latest push by Venezuela's opposition to oust the socialist leader. People have alleged that their loved ones were killed or tortured by security forces. Maduro is now facing more pressure than ever to cede power in the oil-rich nation. Venezuela's 5-day power blackout has left homes without water. Many people in Caracas are having to carry buckets of filthy river water as Venezuela's power crisis has shut down its water plants. The lack of water has become one of the most excruciating side effects of the nationwide blackout. The government of President Nicolas Maduro has blamed US-backed sabotage, but his critics call it a product of corruption and incompetence. At least 8 people are missing. Vehicles travelling along a highway in central Peru were hit by mudslides. The highway connecting Huánuco and Tingomaria was closed off after rocks and mud fell on top of stretches of it. Passenger buses and vehicles were stranded for hours. Heavy machinery was being sent to the area to clean up more than 12 hours of torrential rains, which have caused severe flooding in large swaths of the South American country, with mudslides downing bridges and blocking roadways.